Welcome back. And we were talking about flexible work arrangements, and we discussed job sharing, work sharing, and telecommuting. Now, let's talk about skill-based pay plans. When we say skill-based pay plans, it means pay levels are based on how many skills employees have and how many jobs they can do. And it is also in association with the skill variety we were talking about in job characteristic model. So multiple skills are the requirements of the today's corporate world, so that the people can also go for multitasking. The benefits of skill-based pay plans are: number one, provides staffing flexibility. Number two, facilitates communication across the organization. Number three, lessens protection of territory behaviors. That's basically the political move. And number four, meets the needs of employees for advancement without promotion. And number five, the skill-based pay plans can lead to performance improvements. Yet there are certain drawbacks associated with skill-based pay plans as well. For example, lack of additional learning opportunities that will increase employee pay. Number two, continuing to pay employees for skills that have become obsolete. The third drawback can be paying for skills which are no immediate use to the organization. And the fourth aspect can be paying for a skill not for the level of employee performance for the particular skill. So these can be the drawbacks associated with skill-based pay plans. Now, we're going to start a topic which is in relation with creating an variable pay or incentive pay plan. When we talk about rise in the use of incentive plans, the major independent factor we have is the economy. So when a company faces hard times, it is impossible to lower the wages. Wages become a fixed cost, and the only way a company can reduce their cost is when they lay off workers. Now, the economy's downturn would be providing the basis for reduced outcomes, obviously, and that would trigger the rise in the use of incentive plans. And it would be in association with loyalty and productivity as well. By the term loyalty, we mean to say a well-designed plan will give employees a personal interest in the success of the company. And in terms of productivity, we would say accomplishing more with few people makes incentive pay attractive. Incentive systems can encourage employees to work smarter, faster, or longer. So these two factors, the loyalty and the productivity, which would be moderating the effect of the economic downturn, and eventually there would be the rise in the use of incentive plans, and people would be looking for those incentives. So the jobs for which incentive pay is suitable: Incentive pay plans primarily applicable to direct production jobs. Pay for performance plans as the appropriate method for other employees, which may include the white collar employees and professionals. Yet individual and small group incentive pay plans may apply to almost all varieties of work, so long as your organization is willing to engage in the expense and administration necessary to make the program work. Now there are various types of incentive pay plans, which may include output-based plans, which means in some situations, this can be an explicitly measurable. In many organizations, it's hard either to define the output in these cases. An incentive plan is not a good idea. For example, when we talk about piecework, like in stitching industry, the second type of incentive pay plan can be time-based plans, which means amount of production and amount of time are two variables, like in automobile industry or mechanical jobs. Then there can be gain sharing plans. In gain sharing, employees participate in improving organization performance and then share in the financial benefits, the cost controls. And then there can be profit sharing plans. The company puts a portion of pre-tax profits into a pool that is split among eligible employees. Like there is a textile unit in Lahore known as Shahkam Industries. So there they have profit sharing plans. Now, the incentive pay plans can also be categorized in individual, team-based, and organization-wide plans. When we talk about individual incentive pay plans, it may include piece rate, sales commission, bonuses, special recognitions, safety awards. When you talk about group team pay plans, it may include gain sharing, quality improvement, cost reduction. And when we talk about organization-wide incentive pay plans, it may include profit sharing, employee stock options. So various types of incentive pay plans, when discussed in terms of individual plans, group incentive programs, and organization-wide plans, they can be further discussed as individual plans would include quantity of work output, quality of work output, monthly sales, work safety records. In terms of group incentive programs, customer satisfaction, labor cost savings, materials cost savings, reduction in accidents, services cost savings. And in terms of organization-wide plans, company profits, cost containment, market share, sales revenue, these are the things which we should be focusing upon. In terms of individual incentive plans, there are certain advantages. And the first advantage is helps relate pay to performance, promotes equitable distribution of compensation, helps retain best performers. And another advantage can be compatible with America's individualistic culture. And obviously, not just the American individualistic culture, wherever there would be the trends of culture towards individualism, the individual incentive plans would be giving the benefit. And in terms of the cultures which are associated with collectivism, the team-based plans and the organization-wide plans would be more effective. Now just look at the disadvantages associated with individual incentive plans. And the first disadvantage can be, may promote inflexibility. Unrealistic standards may hamper employee motivation. Setting performance standards is time consuming. Factors beyond employees' control may affect outcomes, and factors not rewarded may be overlooked. So these are all the associated disadvantages, and one has to be very much careful when designing incentive plans in relation with individuals, that they are not just beneficial. We have to be very much careful, and we have to take precautionary measures before assigning these incentive plans. When we talk about group incentive plans, rewards employees for their collective performance. Use has increased in industry, particularly in our own concern, as we are operating in a collectivist society. So individual incentive plans are more appreciated. There can be two types. The first one is team-based or small group, or then it can be gain sharing, in which incentive based on companies' improved productivity based on open leadership involves employee participation and includes bonuses. Whereas when we talk about organization-wide incentive plans, it rewards employees with company when company meets performance standards. Again, we can talk about profit sharing and employee stock options. And the distribution method would be equal payments, proportional payments based on annual salary, or it can be proportional payments based on contribution to profits. Now, there can be two further concerns in association with incentives. And the first concern is positive incentives, which are obviously the rewards, things employees value. And interestingly, there is a negative incentive as well, which is in terms of punishments, the things employees like to avoid. So individuals tend to be more strongly motivated by the potential of earning rewards than by fear of punishment. And obviously that is also in association with a theory in motivation, which is known as reinforcement theory. And remember that positive reinforcements are more stronger than negative reinforcements. But just in case, if we have to talk about punishments, so in terms of monetary punishments, there can be zero salary increase, zero bonus, zero perquisites. And in terms of non-monetary punishments, interference in job from supervisors, loss of job, assignment to unimportant tasks, no promotion, humiliation, and there can be many other forms as well. And when we say rewards, the positive reinforcements in terms of monetary compensation, it can be salaries, it can be bonuses, benefits, perquisites, which may include club memberships, vacation trips, etc. And in terms of non-monetary, it can be promotion, autonomy, recognition, participation in decisions, office assignments, preferred parking places, titles, etc. Like employee of the month, that's a reward. Now remember, when you are designing the incentive systems, there are certain precautions against ill effects of incentive systems. And the first precaution can be that there is a tendency amongst workers to sacrifice quality for quantity. So this calls for a strict system of checking and inspection. As in terms of piece rate, the people would be inclined in production of more pieces, and they would be less concerned with the quality of production. Second, incentive schemes bring about a certain fixity in the operations and undermine flexibility, which is an essential requirement in view of the rapid progress in technology. The incentive schemes should, therefore, be adequately provided with such revision in case of significant changes. So there is again a precaution that there should not be certain fixity in the operations which may undermine the flexibility. Now, the third precaution is there is a danger that safety regulations would be disregarded by workers, and this may result in higher accident rates because again their focus would be in more production rather than safe production. So this may be solved by greater vigilance on the part of workers concerned. The fourth precaution is that there is a danger that workers would tend to overwork and undermine their heel. This may be checked by fixing a ceiling on incentive earnings. And finally, incentive schemes sometimes lead to jealousies and misunderstanding among the workers because the difference in their earnings. So salary compression can also be taking place in such concerns. When we are designing a good wage incentive scheme, there are certain prerequisites for it. Now, let us discuss those prerequisites one by one. The first one is the management should strive to create a proper climate by adopting sound policies of recruitment, promotion, trading, etc., right from the inception of an enterprise. Unless there is mutual understanding and concern for improving productivity, even a well-conceived incentive scheme may not yield the optimum results. And we have to be very careful when we are developing the proper climate for incentive schemes. The second prerequisite is the objectives of the scheme must be clear, and these should be well understood at the levels of management and of workers. Too many factors selected at a time may make it complicated. So to avoid those complications, the objective of the scheme should be smartly developed. Another important aspect is that the scheme should suit both the particular enterprise and its workers. That is, all the workers and supervisors should be consulted so that they understand the objectives and benefits of the scheme and may contribute to its success. And the process like MBO can also play its role in developing such good wage incentive schemes. The third point is that incentive schemes should be installed only when production has reached 60% of the rated capacity. That is obviously in relation with the operations organization is performing. So the quantum of incentive paid at the low levels of production and efficiency should be such as to ensure that earnings continuously increase when the targets are raised. The fourth prerequisite would be incentives should not only increase production, but also result in higher productivity and lower cost per unit. And obviously, the gains derived out of this productivity should be shared both by the employer and the employed. The fifth point is the scheme should not very costly in operation. That means it should not involve the maintenance of very elaborated records, complicated calculations, and too much material handling. The sixth thing we need to bear in mind is the scheme should be based on work study, and the work contents of various jobs should be stabilized. The seventh aspect is, in principle, each individual or group should be paid according to effort and productivity. For disparity in earnings may create discontent. Remember that unless the scheme that is well defined, it may turn out that indirect groups may receive higher incentive earnings than the main production group. The eighth point is the scheme should have elasticity to take care of technological and other changes taking place from time to time and rectify errors that may have crept in at the time of its initial introduction. The ninth perspective we need to focus upon is the scheme should not undermine cooperation amongst the workers. It should rather stimulate cooperation with a view to achieving the common objective of increasing the well-being of the business and therefore of the workers in general. The 10th important point when you are developing a good incentive scheme is concerned with performance standards and norms for incentive payments should be set up at the average performance level of the employees. That is, they should not be too high nor too low. Such performance standards should be set as are within the control of employees. The adoption of objective assessment procedures and the use of functional responsibility are to be advocated in addition to such indices of productivity as wage cost per unit sale, salary savings on inventory, etc. So these all things can be taken into account. The 11th aspect can be to make the scheme effective, a climate should be created in which the employees feel that the management is fair and just in its dealings with them on the wage incentive matters. For this purpose, mutual discussions and appropriate management action should be called for. So remember, it is a very sensitive matter when you are compensating and benefiting the employees, and a strong policy document which is duly approved by the top management should be incorporated, and the confidence of all the stakeholders must be maintained when you are developing incentive plans. So the 12th aspect can be that incentive payment should be made as soon as possible after a job is completed. Any hastily conceived or haphazardly introduced incentive scheme should do more harm than good. So a very careful analysis is required, and one has to be very calculated in distributing the benefits to the employees. Therefore, it should be introduced after a proper consideration of the various preparatory measures and obviously on time. So that basically concludes our chapter discussion. Inshallah, see you next time.